past is important? Why is it important to look at our childhood in therapy? I see these memes all the time like, forget the past, only look at the future. And, I get that, sometimes that can be a good thing. But let me tell you a story. Okay. If you've ever done landscaping at your house or gardening, and you see these pesky weeds come up and they're, making the landscaping or the flowers or whatever look, you know, it's awful when the weeds come up. So if you went out into your yard with a pair of scissors and cut those weeds down, what would happen? Well, the weeds would be growing even bigger in your yard. Okay. So anybody who's ever done this before knows that you have to get in there and you have to pull that weed out by the root. To pull the roots out, the little dangly things at the bottom, all of it. Just get it all out. And then your weeds, that weed will not grow back. Okay. So that's the same, that's an analogy for how it works in our own lives. Because sometimes we are responding and reacting as adults in these childlike ways, and we're like, whoa, where'd that come from? Like when we respond in a 10 and it really requires a 3, or we get feedback at work and we're like losing our minds, or we're just like, oh, you know it could be tied to a root of your past. It could be a childhood thing that if you just saw it and acknowledged it, it wouldn't run your adult life. I've often said there are so many adults that feel like, and I was one of them, feel like gigantic toddlers, right? Because they're full grown adults, but they're totally acting like children. And what that is unhealed childhood baggage. Okay. So that's why we go into the past, not to make our parents villains or blame anybody or, you know, do any of the things that, I think some people have the illusion that it is. It's to see what happened to us and why we get so hurt in certain situations. Like we get hurt in an embellished way and we're wondering why. We're wondering why. And it causes us to be stuck. For example, I was talking to someone the other day who did get feedback at work. And he said, I get this feedback at work that I'm doing something wrong. And all of a sudden, like, I don't know, Cindy, I just felt like I was angry at this person, this boss that gave me the feedback. I was feeling like, I'm stupid. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, you know, it just rocked my world, turned me upside down. And it wasn't that really that big of a deal. So there's an example. And so with him, we went back, into his past. And we realized that he comes from a culture where pleasing your parents is like a huge deal. Like, he had gone through medical school and, just done all these amazing things and accomplished so much because in his culture, it's important to please your parents and do these great things that make your parents look good. So he had done all of these things. So when someone criticized him or gave him a little feedback, it just like destroyed his world. It rocked it. And so we talked about how, you know what? I get that, that was your culture as a child. But now you're an adult and you don't have to please anyone but yourself, and he's working on that and seeing that, you know, when he gets feedback, it doesn't have to ruin his whole, feeling about himself, his whole feeling about his accomplishments. It's just a one-time thing that he can look at, and it's actually feedback is actually meant to make us better, you know? But he was responding out of a childhood younger part of himself that had to be perfect. It was an illusion that he had to be perfect because no one can be perfect. So this is, just a little story or example as to why we have to look back sometimes because it gives us a lot of information about ourselves. So don't be afraid to look back. It's a little scary, right? I get it. I did it too. It can be scary, but it gives us so much good and confidence and ways to respond to things instead of react. And it makes us more mature. And when we're more mature, we can feel better about ourselves, right? Okay. So that's why we look back in therapy.